Meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. Hey, Ron.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America.
one nation under God.
Wow. Now we're going to hear the whole Pledge of Allegiance here. Kenny, you want to do roll call?
Sure.
Please?
Yes.
Ted's not coming.
Hey, trustee Campion,
Present.
trustee Kulat,
Present.
trustee Faber,
Here.
trustee Gant,
Here.
trustee Hopkins,
Here.
trustee Commit is absent and excused. President Tessar.
Here.
Yeah. Chair, I can probably see your name on it. Commissioner Opens. Commissioner Erickson is not here. Commissioner Wade, Maggio, and Summer all called. They are not able to attend tonight. Commissioner Focht, not here. Commissioner Albrecht,
Present.
Commissioner Johnson, not here.
All right, thank you. And this was posted on Friday.
Yes, it was posted at 3:59 PM.
Perfect. All right, first thing on the agenda tonight is a joint board and commission. Discussion of land use district designations and land use map changes proposed. Okay, as we all know from last time, we had a few maps that were really similar, couldn't identify it. That's been cleared up. Michael, do you want to talk first? Are you Michael?
I'm Jeff.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff and Orin, I can't forget that name. Jeff, are you going to be speaking tonight?
Yeah.
All right.
So my name is Jeff Minkle. I've met some of you before. It's
I met Jeff.
meetings, so to see your faces. I'm one of the head planners for both. And I know you've been doing some land use discussions from the last meeting and been involved kind of in the background. And I was hopefully I wanted to come tonight to kind of help our discussion going and get to the next step. I have actually been helping out the town of Brighton as well as the town of Paris do the same thing. Actually, over the past 6 months in the town of Brighton already been going through their whole entire land use map in order to get it ready for the new comprehensive plan in partnership with Sewer Pack. So kind of been doing this already for some of the municipalities here in the county area. So I know the last meeting, we kind of recognized this in our memo, just some confusion going on, and confusion is kind of a result of other maps being out there and everything. So we hope that you all got our new memo a few weeks back to kind of change the subject matter and kind of the direction moving forward. So hopefully we can get more to a consensus moving forward, and knowing that there's still confusion going on just because the nature of the maps being out there today and everything, but hopefully that kind of laid the groundwork. So I wanted to go through what we believe are some questions, overarching questions that I would hope as a group here we can say yay or nay to, and then ultimately move on to the next step, which is I think more intricately looking at the land use map going further. So I have a PowerPoint slide here too that we can kind of catch up on, and we're not going to go too far until we answer certain questions. So right now, as you know, as Orin talked about last time, and just for the audience here, there's a variety of land use maps in play, and usually where a community only has one future land use map that's adopted, and your planning staff can use that and you can use that to make your zoning and land use decisions. The village really has 4 in play right now. And so we want to really go over those and make sure we're changing the specific land use map moving forward. There's a few overarching questions that we would like, I think, the board to answer together as a consensus before we move to the next level and the next steps. And I'm recognizing, if you saw in the memo, that there are next steps. I think, Bill last time and Ron, you brought it up that, what about the ag uses, and what about, some of the business uses and things of that nature, that there's other still questions being answered in the land use map. moving forward before you're saying, yeah, this is the future land use map we're comfortable with, handing over the sewer pack and being our future land use map and going on in the future. And so coming out of this meeting tonight, we do have a recommendation that we may answer a couple of questions as a full consensus, but that coming out of this, that you really want to look at the land use map a little more intricately. I think Bruce, you brought it up, let's look at this maybe, section by section. There's other things that don't work out really for land uses, or the land uses where you might say commercial today, that should be more residential because things have changed. And so we're recommending that, we'll get over to today's meeting and build some consensus, but then let's throw it back to the planning commission, and obviously trustees can be part of that, but start looking at each section and say, hey, what should the land use map look like? Ultimately, let the planning commission mull it over for a few months, and then, it can come back to the trustees. And I think as you talked about last time, before you formally adopt a new plan, you can even have public hearings and things of that nature. So you're going to be much more time put into this. But I think what we want to do tonight is just trying to kick it off and build some consensus here for a couple of overarching issues. And that's really kind of narrow the confusion of all the maps that are going on here. So we're going to flip to the next slide. So as you know, Robbie's here, sewer pack, and they're updating the comprehensive plan for Laurel County. So this is a perfect opportunity for the village to give their input and give over their new desire for a future land use map to be a part of that future comprehensive plan. That comprehensive plan is going to be out to the year 2050. As of right now, the future land use maps we have are basically showing in 2035 and beyond. So we have a chance to give a new future land use map, really thinking ahead, 25 plus years here to sewer pack. Sewer pack, has asked for specifically the direction of what the village would like to see their future land use map to look like. And, this is key, as you all know, that once we adopt a future land use map, it really guides the future of development in the community. You're able to make your decisions on when it comes to new developments coming in and any new zoning districts being proposed, things of that nature. And so, so the big issue right now to try and get to figure out let's find one future land use map and hand it over to sewer pack in the county for adoption in the future, is that this community has, like I said, we have kind of 4 maps that have been played off of today. And that consists of, which I think we can go to the next item, is that there's an existing land use map, future land use map for the village of Silver Lake boundaries, which is on the slide farthest to the left. And then the town had 3 different future land use maps adopted as well. And the reason that happened is the town, at the time when that was adopted, it was desired to have different phases of build out. So you have the one that we're kind of actually currently in is the phase 1, because that really went to from 2008 to 2025. So technically we're in that phase. Phase 2 went from 2025 to 2035, if I'm not mistaken. And then phase 3 went from 2035 and beyond. So all 3 are technically adopted, but I think as Oren and you all know, they're all used in different capacities. Really the phase 2 map is used on the county website. A lot of times when new land use decisions come in, town staff or village staff, sometimes use the phase 3 one. So that's the thing. We're trying to, bring this down into one. And obviously the village was incorporated since the time of all these adoptions. So it's time to clean that up as well. So last time, your last discussion, it was very confusing. Which map are we amending, moving forward? And we try to think back, as you saw in our memo, talk to staff as well, that it'd be better if we just have a consensus just for discussion purposes to think about, let's look at one of these maps up here when we're thinking about building consensus on new amendments, moving forward, at least for our discussions. And we propose that we basically are using the phase 3, the ultimate build out map. I know it's different than some of the phase 1 and phase 2, and we'll talk about, that's why when we say, let's move this on to the plan commission afterwards to talk about those little small nuances. But the phase 3 map, one of the big things with that one is that was adopted by the original town to go out 2035 and beyond. And so there's some good history of that one, I guess you'd say, at least, because the new map we want to create for sewer pack is going to be a planning year of 2050. So it kind of makes sense to at least use that as a basis right now when we're thinking about, creating this new map moving forward. And it's better for us talking right now, so we're comparing one map to another at least. But I don't want to discount that there is a phase 1 and phase 2 maps out there. But I think that's based on a future discussion to look at those individually and what uses they say, with the planning commission and everything. There's plenty of questions we could ask about the land use map, and like I said, I know Bill and Ron brought up, agricultural and business uses, all those individual things. I think there's tons of questions we could go over, and again, I think that's reserved for the next step. But there were a couple bigger overarching questions that I think it'd be great that we're all have a consensus on before the planning commission takes over this next step. And so the first one that was brought up in the last meeting, go ahead, Orion. You can go to actually 2 more slides. We'll go back to that one. Is simplifying the land use categories. Now, as you know, as you look at the maps in your packet, the phase 3 ultimate build out map right now has a bunch of land use categories on there. And basically they're not necessarily land use categories, they're arranged by almost zoning district. So that, as you know, there's a whole bunch of yellow residential ones with all the different R zoning districts. Whereas the future land use map that you usually see in the comprehensive plans at sewer pack actually kind of dumb down the districts a little bit more. You only have, one land use district for a low density residential, maybe one for medium density residential. And you usually wouldn't find the zoning districts in the land use category itself. And so that was the first question we were trying to convey is, first of all, make sure that everyone understands the difference between, land use and zoning and how that works. And to kind of get to a consensus that, yeah, we all understand it would be easier if we could try and adapt the new future land use plan for the village to the same land use categories as what you usually see in the comprehensive plan for the county and sewer pack today. So the proposed land use map that we have in front of the second map in your packet, it does that. If you see it, essentially, like I said, it minimizes the amount of categories. Now, I think the question was brought up by a few members last time. Was, are we losing things by doing that? Are we not able to maybe say yes or no to certain developments because, right now you have the zoning district shown in your land use map. And so one thing we did add since your last meeting, you can see in that table, which is very small and obviously your map's there, but that table on the new map shows where your zoning districts would fall into the sewer pack land use categories. Because behind every sewer pack land use category is a density that's usually allowed in those categories. And so we wanted to show you that, you're not necessarily losing these zoning districts that are showing your comprehensive land use map today. They're still there in the background. It's just about density now. And so the idea is that we now, you'd still be able to say yes or no to developments, for a zoning, when a zoning district comes up and say yes or no by zoning. You might still, even though for example, if it's a commercial area in red right now and someone comes in for a future development, yeah, they're a commercial development that might fit your land use category. And you can say, yeah, you fit our land use area, but their zoning district might not work for that land use because your land use plan says, that's too intense or not, or not big enough density or something like that. You still have the ability to say yes or no by using your zoning district. So I guess the first question I want to come is everyone understand the difference between the land use and zoning, and is there issues, I guess, that anyone has, or maybe we can answer questions by if you don't see the zoning district represented in your future land use map, because I know you've been used to that over the years. I think it'd be good, I guess, if there is any questions with that and what that means to you. I want to make sure that we can go through that process and make sure that moving forward, you're comfortable with not having the zoning district shown in your land use map if we do try to adapt to the categories for the county and sewer pack.
Anyone? I think-
No?
Okay,
So I guess, so does everyone understand too that, if we don't have the zoning districts represented in your future land use map, you still have ability to say, yes and no to, residential developments that might fall into what your future land use map says, but there can be a variety of zoning districts that apply to that land use designation. So you do have the ability to say yes or no based on the merits of that development coming in. So by changing this, what the legend says on your land use map, by taking up the zoning districts and putting them in these general categories, I just want to say, it does not limit you in being able to, say yes or no to development. So I don't know if that was a concern or not, moving forward. Okay.
mhm.
Okay. So I guess that was probably more of an easy question. Does everyone understand, I guess I want to make sure we're on the same consensus too, that moving to the more limited categories that sewer pack usually has in their legend of the districts, is that really an issue at all moving forward to try and make, as long as you can see that all your different zoning districts do fall under these certain categories. I'm sure that table, that might help actually, that table on your future land use map, but just to know that that is all there and available and you can see that and you're not missing anything.
Are other municipalities doing this like this as well?
Yeah, so Robbie could correct me, but I think from what I know in the county, all the towns and villages mostly utilize these land use districts that you see, the new ones that we propose. We'll talk about our next subject that, you feel free, we can add other districts to that, I shouldn't say districts, land uses. Other different types of land uses, if we want to encourage certain ones in certain areas that, the town of Brighton might not, we can feel free to do that. But encapsulating the general ones of medium, high, low residential and the different commercial districts like that, that's generally what you're going to see across the county. Yes.
Yeah, because my concern is like the R3, 4, and 5, and that falls then into medium density or high density, medium density.
Mhm.
Probably medium density, 3
Right.
and R3 is a 20,000 square foot lot.
Mhm,
Mhm.
R4 is 15 and R5 is 10.
mhm.
And they're noted in the way we currently do it. They actually identify, that should be in R3, 4, 5. But when you have just the way that it's colored,
Mhm.
and then it would be up to planning and zoning then to make the decision, are you going to allow this developer to come in, which was originally an R3, 20,000 square foot lots, and now he wants to make it R5, 10,000 square foot lots.
And that's
See-
okay, as long as we look at what's next to that subdivision that they want to develop. So that's just working with the staff and making sure that we know what's there.
And
I think it'd be okay.
the way I see it, when we did it, and it was actually identified as a 3, 4, 5, the developer knew that's what he could build there.
Mhm.
But now, just because it says medium density,
Right.
he can come to us and
Right.
say he wants to do a 3, 4, or 5.
Which in actuality, he could have done
Well,
before,
he would have had to go through all the
which
procedures.
he still has to go through
Right.
them, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And those are the ones that I'm primarily concerned with the growth that we'll have. Business is nice and all that, but
Yeah, I definitely see that you're used to saying first and foremost, this is the exact density you want. So it does change that a little bit. And I don't know if that pertains to every single area that's yellow in there, but I guess I would say that our next step, when we kind of narrow it down and start going through by section or something like that, if it becomes apparent that, there's a bunch of ones that, we want to make sure are R2 or R3, maybe that does come out of there where we do need to add a different density category that fits those type of densities. But the general thing is to try and eliminate the zoning district. And yeah, you kind of let developers still come in. They kind of know their general parameters. Maybe it's, 1 or 2 zoning districts that might fit in that density, but you let them come in and, make their pitch of how does it fit in the neighborhood? How does it fit, the density surrounding there and all that, and you move forward, and obviously how the market's going today, and let them, make the pitch that way. But I agree that there could definitely be areas that, as a board, you feel that we want the developer first and foremost to know if only this density or not. And I think those would come out as we have those more in-depth conversations.
But we can refer to the old map. Land use map.
And one of the other benefits of doing this is you don't continually have to go back and change the master plan. And that's not only costly, but time consuming and everything else. So as it is now, I do like the direction we're going, as long as we can identify the 3, 4, and 5 densities in those areas. And okay, that answers my question.
So does this give us maximum flexibility in view with developers, for example? Does it give us maximum flexibility, or are we creating more meetings to determine what it should be when we already have it now? Make any sense to you?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It depends,
It's a trade-off, correct?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the commercial and industrial development, I don't think we're really changing all that there. It's more in the residential, where there's multiple residential zones that fit under one category. For example, if you see where the business park areas are located, the industrial, those are almost like kind relationships. And so I don't think it really changes much when it comes to that development aspect. But residential, yeah, you could argue, does it give you more flexibility? You or the developer, the flexibility, right? But I would say that no matter what, your land use plan is going to present these broad categories of that you want the future direction of certain land uses. And if unless the zoning is already there, they're still coming forward for a zoning, and you're going to be able to still weigh the variables if you're going to allow that development. And so I don't think it's really changing much on the flexibility. It's making it cleaner and more concise for people when they see the maps, I think, especially, when it comes to residential districts. But then it said, you may want to explore that further and still divvy it up even more.
Because many of those areas right now that will eventually become a zone 3, 4, 5 are right now agriculture. They're A1s or what have you.
So they're going to require rezoning anyway.
Anyway, right.
And so we're just going to be making those areas more than likely a residential district, which could allow a variety of districts in there. But then it's, up through your board and plan commission and say, hey, the developer has put the right densities here that you want to see, and say yes or no to them. Yeah, the difference would be that, and like I think someone just said, even though your current land use plan says R2 residential, a developer can still come in and say, this works better as R3, or instead R5. They can make their argument either way today. It's, I guess, what kind of product and direction we want to present as a village, to be kind of cleaner and still have control.
Yeah, they generally argue for the greater density. They want to build more homes.
Mm-hmm.
We had a situation when we did our last plan where we negotiated with a landowner, Mr. Sheen, recall, because there's a road that's planned to go through his property. And that was all originally planned for R3 and R2, And we gave him some R5 greater density to offset what he was losing in that road that was going to be put there. So, but now we'd still do the negotiation like under, even though it's in a color format rather than all the R's all over the map. So,
Well, in that example, that's where I say the village would have greater flexibility because, you know, for that example, if it only said R3, the developer said, well, it makes better sense to have a mix of R3, R4. Technically, you're not supposed to be deviating from your comprehensive plan without changing it. So if your comprehensive plan says R2, you should be changing the comprehensive plan to say R2-R3 on it now. Whereas if we did it this way, we wouldn't have to do that. The land use plan is already fine. It allows R2 or R3, and it's up to the board and planning commission, the rezoning process to say, yeah, that development works or not. So it would be a lot cleaner.
well, I like that. That answers a lot of questions that I had.
Excuse me, but that would put more responsibility on the village, the whole, to determine if that is the right fit for the neighborhood, either through the commission or through the board,
Correct.
along with the staff. So I have to say that it looks cleaner, but it does mean that we have more responsibility to make certain it's ready for the future.
And there, you're right. And when you look at, and we always have to go through this process anyway, right? Because if you look at the difference between the phase 1 to the phase 3 maps that are out there, you know, some of them have agricultural, you know, because it's existing agricultural and it has that as today. But then you go to the ultimate build out and now it has it as yellow as future R2 residential. So we kind of have to go through this process to say, well, which one is it going to be for the future land use of that area? And, you know, make it less confusing for, you know, developer as well as yourselves moving forward. So either way, you know, when we get to that process, the next step of looking at each area individually, we can work through that.
Well, when we initially did that, you know, we were thinking of the infrastructure with the sewer and then eventually having our water. And we were a town at that time, so getting the water was, and that's the reason we planned our growth. So we could accommodate the infrastructure and then move on once this infrastructure was in, and move rather, because the history we had during the 90s, we were developing all over the town. Development here and then miles away, another one over there, and it wasn't done, you know, so one could feed off the other one.
And I know you didn't get into the last meeting either, but when we go to the next step and talk, you know, the planning commission and talk about individual sections and all that, the sewer district's a big portion of that too, that decision-making process. So we would talk about that as well, thinking about future land uses.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the next piece of subject matter. So we'll go to the next, that's just a zoning slide. So so another just consensus topic, and this is kind of getting into the weeds already when we just talked about, hey, when you want to look at each individual section, you know, in the future, you know, maybe one parcel shouldn't be commercial, should be residential, or shouldn't be ag, should be resident. This is kind of getting into those same weeds, but it's still like a subject matter that we want to make sure, I think, that we have consensus on and that we know we're holding on to this. And that's with mixed use. The existing comprehensive plan map for, you know, the phase 1 through 3 maps in Silver Lake had a bunch of the Hamlet areas all over the place. And those areas essentially are, you know, the quasi downtowns of the different areas in the village. When you have the downtown areas, we know there can be a mix of land uses there. And as of right now, the comprehensive plan just basically has each parcel as an individual land use, whether it's kind of just done by current use. So if it's commercial use, that's what it's shown as. If it's a residential use, even though it's tucked behind 2 commercial uses, it's shown as residential. And so we have a good opportunity moving forward to, rethink the land use plan for the village and create more flexibility, like you said, Jeff, and one to be in the mixed use category. So whereas we just went through and we said that the county and sewer pack have, distinct land use districts that we said, let's try and get inside those. There may be new land use districts that as a village, we want to create through this process to hopefully encourage new uses or help, help developers think outside the box or be more flexible. And one is, this mixed use category. So like I said, there's these 6 hamlet areas that are part of the old plan. And the thought is that we just want a consensus that we should give thought in these next 3 months to those individual hamlet areas and what land uses are encouraged in the future land use map for those. And so now the future land use map probably shouldn't just show that by current land use that, one parcel is commercial, one parcel is residential. The idea of those hamlet areas were for, mix of uses originally. And so we propose the idea that at least go down the direction over the next few months that we could rethink and maybe propose a new mixed use type district specifically for these hamlet areas. And we can think over the next few months of, what that mixed use district means. It can be broad in nature and have text behind it, but it doesn't have to be necessarily showing parcel by parcel mixed use. Like these maps show here, it may just be a general circle, and then your land use text behind it, says, hey, these are areas of importance, kind of considered quasi downtowns of our village. These are the type of uses we want to encourage here in the future, and that's as simple as it is. And then that way, when new homeowners come in for those areas or developers come in and they have ideas of doing a mixed use district, maybe doing a commercial building and a residential on top or things of that nature, you have the flexibility to say, yeah, that fits in the mixed use district and basically meets our thoughts of our old land use plan of what that hamlet was going to be. And so I just wanted to, I want to get consensus that going down that path and having more discussions of having these like a mixed use district is what we want to do for those, so we don't lose the historic importance of the original land use plans. And I also just wanted to show this as an example as well, that over the next few months, if there's other zoning, other land use districts, we want to encourage that are not like the rest in other counties or villages around us, we can do that similar to this. So I guess I don't know if there was any questions or concerns or thoughts about going down the path of the mixed use districts, especially for these hamlet areas. Perfect. Michael.
I think mixed use is the way to go for those areas, because then you get a variety of, you're not stuck to one use for it. Plus, I think retail, residential, commercial should all be near each other. Should all be, if you're going to develop a downtown, you can't stick that. We just all businesses here. You want some businesses, you want some maybe apartments over the businesses. You want different type of housing. You want a mixed use. I think it's healthier that way. It makes it more sustainable going on down the road. When business comes in and fails, you don't have a whole building empty. You guys, it's part of the building.
Right. And these areas are kind of just circled right now, as you see, and I mean, those could be refined to geographical areas. But again, that'd be more discussion to come, once we look at those areas in particular together. And again, that's kind of a good example because in some of the other communities here, for example, like the Village of Summers, they did the same thing with like a business park area, and on their land use map, didn't put on the specific parcel saying this parcel, this farm parcel, this 40 is business park in the future and all that. They left it as agricultural and for certain areas, but put a general line, a dotted line around an area in their land use map and said, we don't know the market or when that 40 acres is going to turn, or when sewer might be, maybe a developer will run sewer out there. We're just saying that we would encourage, a business park to be in that general area if it comes up, and we're welcome to hear a developer come in and talk about it. it doesn't even say you have to approve that in the end, because you're just generalizing, saying we would like to guide those conversations. And that's the same thing we can do with these mixed use areas, kind of just put a general circle around there and say, hey, this is where we want to encourage these mixed use go forward in the future.
Okay,
Okay, see a lot of nodding heads for that.
I think, go, Dan, you got something?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that it gives us as much flexibility in that side too, is where do we want to look at the next area? Right now, we have 6 circled areas as potential ones, but I think that we're going to be seeing other areas that may not be as big as what we currently have, but also will be mixed use, maybe on a smaller scale.
And that's what I hope to get done in our future conversations, and we look at this more intricately and really narrow down a land use map of today.
Okay,
Okay. Well, and those are, the main questions that were kind of considered the overarching ones to get to the next step. And I think at the past meeting, it was kind of thought, hey, well, let's get these overarching questions answered. And, we're ready to go, but it's come really apparent, which is great, that we should be taking this next step and now diving into the land use map. Because I think there's other individual parcels, that may need changes or at least be considered a change. So as you saw on there, supplement that's what our recommendation is, that, we took some of this consensus now for some of these things, and would like to work with the planning commission over the next few months to kind of go section by section and let's bring out the issues of other land uses that are shown on there today. Let's talk about what the phase 1 and phase 2 maps say comparative to the ultimate build out map, and what do we want to ultimately come out with in the end. I know Robbie said that they're already working on the future land use chapter and behind the scenes, but that by next May, they would like to have, if they can, at least some great consensus of the direction. I would think that, if we took a few months at the planning commission level to go over this, trustees obviously can be involved, but after that, planning commission recommends, a new plan based upon all the information. The trustees would definitely have a chance to, oversee that, have their own discussion too, and, give us, a good 5 months to go over this, and be at a position of a nice new map with public involved. So.
sound good, Kim? I think we could do it.
Oh, yeah.
This is a lot easier than it was. I think the main confusion at the time was we had so many maps and they weren't labeled to where it was hard to follow,
I don't know. We were talking, we could probably write a planning white paper as far as our profession goes, because it's unique that you have the 4 maps to play off of, and have to figure out phase 1 through phase.
Yeah, I think,
and then you
yeah.
incorporate in between all the time as well. And so you get it, it's.
This worked a lot better, at least. Any questions, Bill? I know, no? Nobody? Okay, how about planning commission? Anything from the sidebar, anything?
I would just ask if Robbie was.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Yeah, everything seems to be going in the right direction. Just to kind of reiterate, when the village contacted us to prepare the plan update for the village, one of the main categories or emphasis on the update was to provide more flexible land uses or more flexible land use categories, and possibly eliminate the phasing. That would seem to be the confusing part. Get one consolidated land use plan map for the village and provide more flexible land uses within those land use categories. That was kind of the emphasis on the agreement, or the emphasis from the village in regards to this plan update, especially land use categories. And then back to the land use categories on this draft future land use plan map on the back side of the table. A lot of those land use categories are taken, or most of them are taken from the county land use plan. So the county land use plan, when we created the Kenosha County land use plan in 2010, basically we had to, like I said, dumb down or get it generalized as possible. So we're taking land use plans from 11, 12 different communities. So we got to try to find generalized land use categories to fit all those land use categories from all these local plans. And all of them are different, all of them have different language to try to fit it into the county plan. So, I mean, the village can go any direction they want in regards to what they want to term their land use categories. Or what kind of density they want to use for residential, or have separate land use categories for specialized districts and so forth. Each community is different. But like I said, this is the categories on this draft land use plan map. It's a good starting point, and you can always add from there.
Okay,
I just wanted Jeff, Orin, obviously, from last month, I know you guys put a lot of effort to go over something in the last half hour, just to do it justice, the amount of time that Brad and everybody spent to get us where we are tonight, which is cleaner for us. So thank you guys for all coming back again. Thank you guys for staying with it. So I think.
thank you. All right, thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
So you'll be in touch with the P and Z then, planning and zoning then. Okay, next phase. Perfect. Anything there, guys? Otherwise, we're going to move into our committee of the whole.
Yes, I have kind of a question.
Okay,
If we're taking this to the zoning next,
yeah.
what resources will we have, or what, maybe Kim, I should ask you, what these folks, will they be attending these meetings too? So we can bounce questions off, or is this just going to be a working session? The zoning commission.
No, I don't think that they would be in these next several meetings to
Okay.
work through those questions, and we'll give you whatever resources you need. So.
Come January, I would expect every month, we'll be having a meeting. The subject will be on there in one form or another.
Yeah,
But then eventually we gotta get to the official public hearings
right.
with the publication and everything. You'll hear each district or each area one time.
The thing is, the zoning shouldn't change. It's just a matter of finding land use categories that will adopt the zoning or in certain districts. The zoning should stay the same.
Okay,
Unless there's a major area of, from an egg to commercial, something like that. They might go in and rezone in certain areas.
okay,
We
Like, you
still,
want to try to fit the zoning with the land use as much as possible, so you don't have to go through all that rezone.
as Bruce has said, to take areas to study and make your comments and changes and what have you. Would we still do that with neighborhoods? Say, take neighborhood 5 and 6 and do it together?
I
Or
think
5,
once they
6,
start
7?
Breaking it down, I think we talked about breaking it into four separate,
Talk about quadrants.
right, quadrants.
Okay, but they would be the neighborhoods, right?
Within those
Right.
quadrants, when we can expand.
Because I'm thinking of the public hearings. Because each one of those neighborhoods, we had public hearings, so those people have participated, and given us their thoughts when we did this initially. So now we could invite those people in neighborhood 4, 5, if those are 6, whatever. And then have the public hearing after the changes, and you get their input as well.
And again, the mixed use land use category that Jeff was talking about, that was basically brought up because the village had created a mixed use overlay district as part of the zoning. So that's why the mixed use land use category got brought up as well. The zoning.
okay. Anything else?
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
Minute break.
You want a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you pause the recording, please?
Brian, start it up. Okay, the second part of our meeting tonight was the committee of the whole, and the first thing on the agenda was the sale of village-owned properties. We haven't, I don't think we've gotten any further than last month on that.
Back through all of those, trustee Goulart and different staff, I think we identified initially there was 17 properties out of all that would be possible for sale. Obviously, one, it's still the building in Silver Lake that we're gonna tear down. We're kind of delaying that now because there's going to be some water pipes. Stay. And delay that until spring, so they're not trying to. So I talked to the owner of that already. So
Are they even using that building for anything currently, or is it just sitting there?
I think it's just sitting there. I don't think there's any use in it.
You talk about the old post office that's attached to that. Did we ever come up with an agreement as far as the common wall?
Yes, we worked on that with Rich. There's a party wall agreement in place. I had REC install just a quick set of plans. But we know that just from the interior of the building, once we tear down off our portion of the building, his roof line and some exposure that's going to really be on him to repair. We just don't want to tear it down in February, you know.
So where, the question that you water lines, he doesn't have his own individual water line or well or whatever?
Well, so in the agreement, and I don't know how it all got worked out back years ago, but in the agreement, there was a party wall agreement and a shared well agreement. And the well is right outside that building front door. So I'm not sure previous to the merger, if someone had actually routed the electric into that building so he could have power. Who capped the water lines that goes to the, I have no clue because it's all buried in the walls. So once the building starts coming down, you know, more of that's going to get exposed, but that's why I didn't want to do it in the winter. We want to put him into more hardship because he's going to have to winterize and weatherproof that exterior wall now. And we see Rich will have to work out some legal documents and agreements, but he seems to be willing to work. He was very appreciative that we would not tear it down in January because obviously you could try to do that in the middle of winter.
So of the other properties then that we do have, what are the next steps? And along with those next steps, what would be the timelines associated?
Well, I think, and obviously maybe Trustee Goulart could recommend someone, you know, we want to, the main one I'm talking about, we have a lot down on Highway 83. Where we tore the apartment building down. That's obviously a pretty, you know, pretty good lot for someone. I know that there's already been some interest shown. There's a little triangle in Silver Lake. Address here. I think it was valued at like $100. But the property owner that abuts it, that's been mowing it for 20 years, is interested in taking that little triangle, you know, as part of his property. So I don't see any issue with that. We have just north of the community park, we have a vacant lot that I know that the neighboring properties are interested in buying.
Oh, right by the outlet there, where the path and that. So that's come up before.
Yep. So they're still interested. So that was the ones that I wanted to bring up. The 20 acres right down 84th Street. We also got that vacant lot there now that attaches to that.
What about the 20 acres there in Silver Lake between the industrial park and the residential areas?
That's correct. That's there. So what I'll do is, but at some point, I don't know if we need to entertain a realtor that, you know, if we want to list these properties or how that would go about doing that. Rich, Mike, I don't know.
I think depending on the size of them, 20 acres, I think that would be realistic.
Rockland sent us, you know, some numbers of what the assessed value would be on them. So some complaining properties to neighbors, they would just write up a letter and mail them a letter and just say, hey, if you're interested, here's what it is.
Could I see a copy of the value?
Yeah, I'll send it all to you.
So come back to that last thought, Mike. What happens, and I'm just gonna throw it out there, the 20 acres in Silver Lake, where we got all those residential homes that butt up to it, okay? And say half sporadically through that 20 acres want to buy it, extending all the way up to the industrial park. What do we do with the remaining lots then that are in
Well,
between?
I think that the 20 acres is a different than a vacant lot. I think the 20 acres you sell as 20 acres. 'Cause I don't
Just leave it
think
as
you want
whole.
to get into a subdividing of a property unless something
Right.
else is different. I was just referring to those couple of little remnant
Okay.
pieces that are adjoining individual homes.
But isn't that's like a 14-acre parcel back there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. the
Isn't
exact
that
size.
zoned conservancy or something?
Not that one. Over by the old Oaks Park in Silver Lake.
Okay,
That's all deemed
All right.
wetland, primary environmental corridor, but that one's not on here.
But this 20 acres we're talking about that abuts the residential area, it's very hilly. And you'd have to access it. You couldn't drive through somebody's yard, so you'd have to go through the industrial park to get to it.
No, there's another way. There's
10.49.
another way. If
On the west side,
on the west side, there's almost, you can almost see where the road would go up into it.
on the way on the west side, I know where you're talking about.
I'm gonna scan all this in. I'll be sending you emails. I've broken down each one of these parcels.
What about the one in Kemp by your house, across from the bar? Not the apartment building, the one where they're doing all that renovation, that one on the channel.
The one that had a house in the bank.
Yeah, that
We knocked
house.
it down, the bank gave us a lot, and that's a nice lot.
It is a nice lot.
In
Right
fact,
across from the Camp Lake store.
yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
Oh, that's probably one of the nicest lots we have that could be, that one I believe could be sold. We get somebody, what do you suggest?
Well,
Mike?
that could be, I think Mike and I talked, and I'm going from memory because I didn't bring my package with me, but I think that could be 2, maybe even 3 lots.
It's 1.10
Residential?
acres.
Yeah, so that could be 3, maybe even 4 residential lots, back to the channel, for whatever value that is. But I mean, there's some value in that lot. And then the neighbor to the north, we had talked with, when Pat was still here about, I was taking a little sliver so
For
he could
that.
square up his driveway.
I thought we did that. We didn't do it?
Apparently it was never followed.
It was never followed up.
I don't know.
well,
if it's the
we
same.
agreed that,
We agreed to let them, yeah,
And I didn't realize that had not been done. That was previous to me. but
Yep,
I wanna get
yep,
back.
it was.
But that, it may have been sold, that property, because I see different cars there.
It's a rental property.
That's rental.
Okay,
It's a rental home, that he rents out, but I just talked to, I think,
Ah.
the gentleman's son, I
Mhm.
talked to
Huh.
a few months ago.
well, they've been cutting the grass on our property.
This year.
Yes, I've seen them.
I know we mowed it a couple of times and then I think.
And
now
they mowed it as well.
But I always send it, like I say, I gotta scan a lot of this stuff in,
Well, I'd be interested in seeing what Rocco values that particular property at.
a year ago, we valued that at, 88,700.
Wow.
If we're,
R4, return zone,
Always a pleasure, Robbie.
1.10 acres.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
if it would please the board, Mike, I think we huddle up on this and at the next board meeting, come back with some definitive. Here's A, B, C, and here's what we think they're worth. And
Any other coming to mind other than what Mike's got? Anybody else off the top? Okay, keep going, Mike.
No,
Got any other ones?
I think there's one actually down by, the Shannon in Oakwood Knolls. It's,
Oh, no.
kind of goofy. It's less than a quarter acre, but, it's PR1. There's a couple of trees in it now. It's not wide enough or deep enough for anything, it's really long, but only.
Is it on that first road when you come in Oakland Knolls from the Abbey area? And then it's there on the east side?
yeah,
And the lady apparently had a heart attack because
Yes.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
it's 185 by 59.
Yep, that's the one. Because she used to park her camper there and we made her move her camper. Okay,
There's the two houses on the side that might, like you would try to see if they wanted it, right?
Right.
Those are two rental properties.
Right, at the board's discretion, we move. It's not big enough, like I say, to sell it a lot,
oh, I would totally be interested in selling that one.
so. but
It's,
we can
it's,
mow it and-
it's long and narrow.
Well, it's, I know exactly the property.
Mike,
Why can't I-
there's
I've been on that one.
Center Lake, you know where the property is?
You go around.
On the other side where that little park area is where we cut that grass.
Well, that was.
And then there's a little beach area there. I've been told there's some property next to that beach or not on the lake.
And it was,
But that lady in that house on the end there, on the north side, is interested in buying some property. She said it's town property or a village property.
I'd have to look.
There's a little triangle right in that, you know,
But it must-
Doug, what we're talking about?
No.
By the boat landing in Center Lake, there's a little triangle there that's right out in front. It sits there all by itself.
Oh, yeah.
And that'd be something it's useless for what we're looking at, right?
I'd have to go back and look it up. It wasn't part of our initial list. We started off with like 100 and. I think
70 or 80 was-
50 properties, but you know, they're encompassed by parks,
right,
lift stations, buildings, you know.
right.
I'll look at Kenosha County. I'll see if I can identify it for you. I'll look at Kenosha.
Yeah, just send
County.
me the partial. What I'll do is I'll send you guys, in the next few minutes, I'll send you an email with the partials. And then you can pull them up on Kenosha County website and look at them.
It's a start.
Yeah,
We don't have to do them all at one time, you know, we could do 3 or 4 of them. I know Bill has been on it and I'm glad, thank you.
Well, the
because we
pandemic
let it
screwed
go.
us up. We were.
I know,
you know, as far as
Yeah.
planning goes, I don't know what the future plans are for
But-
the Silver Lake Hamlet, you know, we tore down the old grocery store. Very nice lot
Yeah.
there. Obviously, we own the building across the street. You know, I don't know. Talked here today about mixed use, you know, that's
Yep.
not what that was, it was storefront with apartments upstairs, so, you know, that's something. But yeah, I don't know if we just want to sell that lot because by the time we tear the building down, we can't sell the lot and make our money back on it, so.
Yeah, the only way I see that you're gonna make anything off of it is to eventually buy the buildings on either side of that tear down and basically just redo that whole strip.
Right, you know, but it also
They
ties
don't
back
want to.
into future planning,
Right.
Village Hall, Silver Lake Village Hall, the fire station, you know, some of those other buildings in there as a master plan, but, you know, I just want to keep an eye on it. That's all.
okay,
I'll send this so you can independently look at them. And I'll highlight the ones that I know property owners are interested in. I think those would be pretty easy. You know, 'cause none of them are big dollar pieces, so. I'll get that to you either later tonight or tomorrow.
okay. Can we move on to number 2?
Yeah.
All right, the use of golf carts, are we any closer on this?
Mike and I talked the other night, or the other day, and we kind of agree on the way it was written. Okay, unless somebody wants to make some changes to it.
So Rich has had the opportunity to legally, you know, from a legal standpoint, he believes that we're ready. Obviously, Ron put a lot of effort into it. We got rid of the state statute says 25 miles an hour. So then that really helps us get away from
A lot of
trying to
signage.
eliminate roads and a lot of signage, you know, because most of the roads that were really unsafe or dangerous are 35-mile-an-hour roads. So that really helps a lot. Signage, I've checked with a lot of municipalities that have these, most of them, nobody's signing every intersection. They're just doing it on an as-needed basis, you know, if they have an issue somewhere.
How much was it again I mean, $25? What's
Well,
it?
it's
Oh, that's the
$50 for 2 years.
50 for 2.
And I talked to, Paddock Lake is $50 annually, and they have over 100 golf carts registered in every year. So it's not that it's not gonna make any money, but that's kind of
Well, I
immaterial.
don't even want it. I mean, obviously the girls take a lot of time to do all this extra stuff, but I don't want it to be so, you know, but that isn't bad. 25 a year isn't bad. You gotta be 16. Do they have to have a license? I don't recall. You don't have to have a license, do you?
That's right.
Yes. we should.
They have to be a licensed driver.
You're legally on a road, yes.
All right, and a permit wouldn't count, correct? Okay,
You have a licensed driver next to you.
okay,
Yeah, in fact, it's 23.33 is the statute. And I read it today or parts of it, and there's a number of things there, consumption of alcohol. There was an article in the Kenosha paper just a week ago
yeah, it was just recently.
that people that cannot, they lose their license to drive a regular vehicle. They end up driving four-wheelers and UTVs and ATVs because you can drive them a little tipsy, whereas you couldn't drive a car that way. See? And anyways, that's a statute that there's a number of things there that would have to be in our document. You've probably put that in already, Rich, some of that stuff.
Yeah, I think we've covered that, and the OWI issue is a strange one because there have been prosecutions throughout other areas of the state of Wisconsin. Or one gentleman was driving his riding lawnmower while intoxicated, got prosecuted. So the rules are goofy there. I think we've covered that with the draft language that we have.
Okay,
And I did notice it said that you have to have four wheels to be classified as a
golf cart,
an LSV.
LSV.
What's an LSV?
And that'd be a slow moving vehicle or.
Right.
Okay, but here again, some of the older golf carts only have three wheels.
Yeah, I had a Harley one time at a three.
So, I mean, it
Would you
just,
ever allow them?
yeah, it's one more wheel that's gonna make a big difference, I
No,
would think.
but the statute says
Certainly will.
Okay.
the definition
Yep.
of a
Yeah.
slow moving vehicle on a highway, on a road, on a paved road,
I rolled forward.
has to have four wheels.
And I think that's one of the areas that we need to make certain that people understand that if it's going to go through as a golf cart with four wheels, it is a golf cart with four wheels, not a 1960 model that was three wheel that was easily flipped over.
But is this 44.02? It says right on there, golf carts means a three or
Or four.
wheel motorized vehicle.
Yep,
So I mean, that tells you right there that you can
which is
have.
not capable of exceeding 20 miles per hour.
Right.
Not to argue the point, though.
They go faster than that.
Statute for the slow moving vehicles,
Extended and
they do say
that vehicle three wheels.
it's in conflict with that because it says it's got to have four wheels if it's a slow moving vehicle.
And on the next, you go down to C, a golf cart is not considered a LSV. Okay, so,
So Dan, what did you say?
Excuse me, this is a prime example of, we're trying to use existing state statutes in order to set up our own ordinance. In this case, the state statute isn't very specific. And I think we've seen over the years that a lot of state statutes are written so general or for a specific area and region. But when it comes down to a region that's as dense population as us or other, it's not really befitting. So therefore, I think we need to have it in our ordinance, those definitions and those guidances. Because you've already brought up, the two of you brought up one example with two documents contradicting one another. So what do we do at this local level? We either get it right and put it into our own ordinance, or we follow a state statute, which could then go to the courts, and then the judge has to make a decision on which one's the right one. And I'd like to see that more cut and dried on our ordinance as opposed to leaving it to someone else to make a decision. And then it's pure judgment.
And I agree with that, Dan. You can be more restrictive than state law, but not
Not
less
less.
restrictive.
Right,
With the lakes
So
and
we,
that.
right.
if
And
we wanted to make it a three-wheel vehicle, I imagine we could, I guess, but.
I look at this as being a safety issue. I am always bringing back into a safety issue. I'm glad to see that we're reinforcing the fact that you have to be a licensed driver. What about liability insurance?
Yes,
You have to
That's on
have
there.
liability.
Well, it's in there, but I'm bringing it up because this is going to be viewed by others through our YouTube. It says liability insurance. What about youngsters, children that are under an age where, hey, if they were in a motor vehicle, they would have to be included in some type of a car seat or a booster seat? What about seat belting? And I bring this example up
do they
again
have
where I saw
seatbelts?
an adult that looked like he was old enough and responsible enough to a certain degree of driving a golf cart, but he had a young person in the passenger side that was probably 5 or 6 years old, and the hills on the north side of Paddock Lake. This poor kid was holding on with both hands as the older one was driving through and getting into the parking lot. Now, that could have easily been an accident waiting to happen. So I'd like to see some more emphasis on safety issues. Now, having the slow moving vehicle sign, that's great. But if you're gonna get first of all, you're gonna be paying some good money to get a good golf cart. Number two, they're gonna go faster than 25 miles an hour. Some of them can go as much as 40 miles an hour. And it's not a vehicle that has crash bumpers or safety issues or airbags or anything else that we take for granted. So not that we could do that with a golf cart. We can't put those safety bumpers on and airbags in, but we can have it so that we can put in nominal safety issues to protect the people. Protect the people, especially that are not in more of a responsible age. You know, protecting those 6 and 7 year olds old, or even the 12 or 13-year-old.
Yeah, we don't have anything about that, about passengers in here.
No, I think it's written in there, Ronnie, correct me if I'm wrong, that there has to be a seat for every.
Every occupant,
Every
yes,
occupant has
but
one.
you know, here again, how do we protect somebody else's judgment as far as driving a golf cart and telling them that what they have to do as far as the safety of somebody else? I mean, this is the, how do I want to say this?
I don't think there's anything in there.
More rules and regulations as far as safety and the government protecting yourself. It doesn't make sense. Seatbelts, they don't manufacture these things with seatbelts.
You can get seatbelts.
Sure, you can put seatbelts in, but
Because you got to remember, Ron, golf carts from the manufacturer are not manufactured for on-road use. They're modified after the fact. Most of the time, they're modified at the dealerships, the on-road, and then they have the street legal, turn signals, brake lights, headlights, taillights, seat belts, even some handbars in some areas. So how far do you want us to go? I think we have to have our own consciousness. I hate to use the term common sense because my definition of it is different from others' definition of it. But if you don't have something there to protect the people that may not have the experience and knowledge of how to operate it, or you got to give them the ability to put it in there and be able to use it. I don't think it's too much asking for someone to put in seatbelts into their cars or into their golf carts. And if we restrict the time, you know, maybe we don't have to have headlights or taillights.
no, the time is restricted on.
But then what about days that are raining? You know, you're supposed to, if you have your windshield wipers on in your car, you're supposed to have your headlights on.
Oh, my God.
What's the matter?
Yeah.
What was that comment for, Ron? Please
Well,
explain it.
I mean, your windshield wipers out and the golf cart, but not even have a windshield on it. So it just,
Well, I didn't say windshield wipers on a golf cart. First of all, don't project that in my words, please. I said, if you're in a car and it's raining, you have to have headlights on when your windshield wipers are on. What do you do if it's raining and you're in a golf cart?
I have a raincoat on.
You want to be seen. I mean, you've opened up a can of worms here.
I just thought this would be simple. We took somebody else's ordinance, okay? And we're running this down the road. In the 4 years, they've had 2 little instances as far as what goes on. And this turns into a can of worms.
Okay, it has turned into a can of worms because, first of all, we were looking at Paddock Lake. That's been the blueprint for this. Paddock Lake is made up of 3 types of communities, three neighborhoods, if you will. north of 50, south of 50, and the new development that's west of 83. So first of all, you can't cross a state highway or county highway. So you're really putting those people into their own neighborhoods. Those are established neighborhoods.
We have the same
There's not
thing.
We
new-
have,
We have the same thing.
Those are new developed neighborhoods, and they don't really have a lot of plans for developing in those neighborhoods. We just sat through a presentation where we're looking at expanding our neighborhoods.
mhm.
So if we say today, you're gonna have 25-mile-an-hour roads, you can have golf carts on them. That opens up everything that we talked about tonight, that everything is potential golf cart. And if we don't have these rules set first, now I understand about government intervention. I agree with that. But there are certain things that I personally want to be able to put my head down on the pillow at night saying, I did a good job in making certain that we passed something that was safe and nothing that could be exposed to harming someone. So that's why I'm bringing these up. I don't know how the rest of you feel on it, because it's going to take a board decision. And therefore, I'm not only talking to Mr. Gant, but I'm talking to the rest of the board members. You know, make certain that you have your own conscience clean, because I see these items as a clear in my conscience.
It says here, the number of occupants, going back a few minutes ago, the number of occupants in the golf cart shall be limited to the number of adult persons for whom individual seating is installed and provided on the cart. That's all it says. It doesn't say.
And then back to another one. Now, Dan, as far, yes, so what do we have? 18, 20 different community subdivisions. So on the majority of these, you can't even get out of that subdivision to get on a county road or a town road that's 35 miles an hour or greater. You could cross them. No, you can cross a highway that's 35, but over that, you can't cross them. So I mean, as far as limiting to where you can take these, where you can drive these things is what we're getting at as far as, where you can go with them.
Okay, and is this something that we can control based upon residents or non-residents? Or if someone wanted to come up, visit us and park their vehicle and offload their golf cart?
Sure, if you come in here and you bring your registration, you buy your sticker, you have somebody come over to your house and test drive you or look at your golf cart. You want to buy the registration? Why not?
Yeah, as long as we're following our rules. I'm gonna weigh in on this real quick, and you may not want to hear this now, but I have a relationship with people in Village of Johnson. They've had golf carts for 4 or 5 years now, and their ordinance is on any village street, and it's a lot less restrictive than what we're looking at here. And Dan, I applaud you for going where you're going with safety issues. I think that's wonderful. I think it's a good idea. But they have actual days that they block off streets and have parades with these golf carts. People, you go down to Johnsburg anytime in the summertime, you'll see golf carts everywhere. And not that we're gonna do this, but they have a day in the summertime that the police department comes and blocks off roads, and they have an actual pub crawl with golf carts. They take it from bar to bar to bar. I'm not saying we want to do that. I'm not saying we should do it. I mean, that's just how far this has gone in some other areas. I know the town of Lynn just approved golf carts out there. I don't think they're as restrictive as this is, but I mean, it's the wave of the future. People, it's where things are going. I see this come back more and more and more places like ours.
I personally don't, if the golf cart, I don't own one. If the golf cart doesn't have seat belts, I can't see making people put them in.
Well, I've fallen out of golf carts and golf courses before.
Yeah.
Wait.
Golfing is a different story. Something else goes with that. Driving down the road, I mean, you're gonna really limit, and not that it matters to me whether we limit it or not, because I don't know, I'm mixed feeling about the whole thing, but I don't want to make them put in a seatbelt. That's.
Why wouldn't you?
I just think it just, I don't know, nobody's, so, okay, it has to be okayed by the Kenosha County Sheriff, and if they don't see a seatbelt, if we put it in our ordinance, then they don't get it.
They don't get a sticker.
Okay,
But we could also over restrict these things till the cows come home. I mean,
right.
I hear what you're saying, Dan, about
I think if
headlights
it's a
and wipers and seatbelts,
standard
are we then gonna,
golf cart,
are we
Let
then
it
going
be.
to require, because it lacks doors and sides, that even though there's a seatbelt, anyone under the age of 16 should be in a helmet? I mean, how far do we take this thing?
Well, you brought up a good question. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Normally, I don't like it when people do that to me, but I apologize for it. I mean, how far are we going to take it? It's up to us. I mean, I'm bringing up points that bother me. And I think that some of them have more merit than others. Certainly the seatbelt one, and whether or not if someone is under an age that if they were in a car, they would have to be in a booster seat or a car seat. How do we address those two items?
I think the latter of the two is reasonable. I think the seatbelt, I mean, it's got to be awfully expensive to install them.
It's really not. You could put 4 of them in there for under $100. They're clamp on to the existing framework that's in there if you have it. So it's not that much of an expense considering what the actual safety is for those individuals that are not, I mean, golf carts are made for adult-sized people.
True,
Seating is made for an adult.
true.
They're not made for anyone that's under 5, probably for 5'9". I'm pulling a number out.
And to
And
be
those are
ridden
the
on a
ones I
golf
wanna-
course.
And they're
That's
not
all
adults and they're, you know, those are the ones that I think we should.
All right, I'll tell you what, Dan, why don't you propose a couple of those issues? We'll throw it out the next meeting at the board, and if anyone else comes up with something, safety issues. Otherwise, I think this is really good. I'm not sure about the places yet. I haven't even looked at the places that you've banned them, and I'm assuming,
We didn't ban any.
well, those are the proposed areas where you couldn't go.
Yeah, but then that was changed because it's gonna be.
Yeah, they did change it though,
Yeah.
but they changed it. That would be my proposal. Otherwise, we're gonna go on and on about everything. Why don't you propose to us and then we'll go from there. If anyone else has some safety issues that we want to add, this is the time, and we'll discuss it at the next committee of the whole. Shannon?
That's what I want
Okay.
to know, cow meeting next month.
Okay, so yes, I would like to put it on. I mean, I think this is great. I appreciate all the hours and time you put into it. And why don't we do that? I mean, if you think we could do the seatbelts, I don't know, does anybody else do seatbelts in any of their ordinances? I just didn't want to change a standard golf cart. I just don't want to get that particular, but I understand your place. And maybe there should be booster chair. I can't even imagine driving down the road with a booster seat in my, I just wouldn't put my kid in it, but they do it. You're right. They do it.
Well, I can appreciate what Dan
Mhm.
Dan is saying, and I agree with a lot of it.
Mhm.
I've also seen a golf cart in Paddock Lake with a woman driving and a bunch of kids hanging on it, and it was up on 2 wheels.
Oh,
And, but the people we've had here inquiring about this, they live a couple of blocks from the beach.
Yeah.
And they want to take their cart to the beach. But that's, we're doing an ordinance that people will be running all over some neighborhoods and not just going to the beach. So
okay,
There's gonna be somebody that's gonna abuse no matter what we put on it,
exactly.
without a doubt. So,
Yeah, my kids at school tell me all the time. I got high schoolers. They tell me all the time how the cops pull them over in Paddock Lake all the time. A lot of times it's on a lawnmower. And then they stop them about, quarter mile from home. And then they said, well, how are we going to get it home if we can't ride it home? And then they let them ride it home. And as soon as they're gone, then they go out again and they get, but yeah. So let's do that, okay?
The last item I want to bring up is if there is someone that's in violation and receives a citation, where is that citation written to? Municipal court?
Should be, it's a
Yeah.
local ordinance.
Yeah, local.
Unless there's other criminal charges that's along with that.
Yeah, a warrant pending on the guy.
it'd be like Dan, like a boat.
Would that be one that would go to municipal court or would it go to circuit court? If it was alcohol as the subject matter for being pulled over?
Yeah, and then
Well,
25 to
The
500.
general, the municipal court has jurisdiction over first offense OWIs by statute. But that's not solely the jurisdiction, the circuit court also would. So it really is up to the policy that as a board you want to establish and direct the sheriff's department when they issue those kind of citations. Because either court can hear those. Either court has the power to hear those, the circuit court or the municipal court. But you as a board have the authority to direct the sheriff's department to write those either to municipal court or circuit.
Because that was one of the discussion points when we terminated our safety enforcers. That we didn't want them to be doing traffic citations, especially when you're getting into doing stops for OWI. And one, because it's an OWI. Number two, that could also open up other citations and charges for. So that's one area that I'd like for us as a board to come up with a direction for the sheriff's department, if that's a municipal court citation or if it's a circuit court citation.
Okay. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Oh,
And thank you all for listening to my.
no, I mean, I think we agree. It's just that, where do you end, you know, or where do you?
You're so
Okay.
polite, nobody wants to interrupt you.
Number 3, possible building planning and zoning ordinance changes. Who's one? You wanted that one, Phil?
No, I
That
brought.
was you.
Yeah.
That was you.
In regards to last month or whatever with the,
I'll resend this to you guys.
so how do you determine a difference between a pergola or a pavilion
Oh,
or whatever, or a gazebo? And I mean, they're just nitpicking this as far as a pergola. So if we go through a detached building, a detached structure, okay, that, and it's all, why are we, my question is, why are we just determining this as a pergola? Why don't we just stay with the ordinance we have as far as if it's 150 square feet, it's 12 feet
I
high?
don't think the pergola was in the original one. That the issue we couldn't find in the description. I believe there was something in there that nothing really fell into that particular category.
Okay,
So, and the question came up, somebody wanted to build one.
okay,
So we just kept looking, trying to figure out a way. We see them, and, you know, and I'm not sure what the previous building inspector would consider a shed or I'm not sure what it was, but we just, it seems to be a more common place today, people putting up pergolas. So we just wanted to make sure that we had something covered.
because you can get to the in a states that 490.19.8, the height of it, it just should go under an accessory building, I'm gonna assume.
Well, the
Instead of-
issue becomes, is the board interested in, you have a pergola in your yard, you know, over the patio deck area,
no,
then get rid of one of your accessory structures.
no.
No.
If you put it on a golf cart, it's not.
Wait a minute, you have something to put your golf cart in?
No, Dennis, that would be a shed for the golf cart. It would be a-
Garage, if we call it garage, the
So
dog cart
again, you know,
garage.
the question came up and we were just trying
Need wipers.
to take it away from,
Were you considering it another structure where you're allowed?
we did not want that to be considered an accessory structure or an outbuilding.
Okay.
You know, it was, and again, I didn't look at it real close. I understand that, you know, if you're gonna build it, and I have to talk to Ellis about it, you know, because it doesn't make sense to me, the footings could go on a slab, you know, so, you know.
Right.
you can-
And by definition, the way we have it in the ordinance now, it specifically addresses something you would see in a garden. And I just can't see us requiring footings on a
Right,
pergola in a garden. And that's how the ordinance is written.
right.
So we'll have to go back and get Ellis would be the one that would.
Yeah.
Put it on the golf cart.
The other is that we're talking about
So you can't tow anything.
and then I wanted to have a definition of what was footing. Is that a pad that's ground surface, or does it have to be frost line,
It
or?
was cross-line, didn't I send you that in email?
Oh, I don't recall receiving it.
Thank you.
Oh,
And you know, we're not at fault all the time, so.
But if it's attached to the existing structure, like for your house, yes, it has to have a footing under it, just like a deck.
If it's attached.
If it's
to the house.
attached.
But if,
Yes.
yeah, but if it's a freestanding, it's not attached, and then that the question is, how far away from the house does it have to be?
I thought that was in there.
That's in stuff. It is. It's minimum of 10 feet.
So that was some of the question on why the pergola became a little more question. Do you want to see how?
Well, I don't know if that's a good idea, because you brought up an example of someone wants to have the structure on a deck.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be closer than 10 feet to the house. Or if you have a concrete patio today and you want to put a structure on it, which is more ornamental, it's no roof, no support structure for a roof, so it's not gonna be load bearing other than itself. So, having it attached to a concrete patio, so it doesn't get, well, it's gonna be difficult for the wind. We'd have to have a hurricane or a tornado. Well, hurricanes in the Midwest.
Especially
Careful, we've had them.
if you go out towards Salem Community Park, that new subdivision right there off of AH,
Mhm.
one of the last homes before you start, one of the last homes in there you can look down in, they have a pergola. And it's actually on the slab, the patio slab.
Mhm.
And I'd say it's about 15, 20 feet from the house. But I don't think it would have footings, and that's where I was going originally.
But I would have to look, obviously I would have to go back and look at the building plan and see when it was built.
Yeah.
Again, we never had nothing specific to a pergola, so was Jack considering an accessory structure?
Right.
That I don't know what they were being done before. There was nothing specific, but I didn't want it to take place of storage, building and outbuilding or accessory structure.
No.
But it's really not, So that's why we were trying to be specific, because we do get that question.
Yeah.
More and more of those every day.
Because before we started, I said, there isn't a heck of a lot of difference between a pergola and a gazebo or a pavilion. There's structurally, there's nothing different in it other than
The roof.
Right.
Yeah, typically on
Pergola's
a
open.
pergola, it's open unless
all
you want to
open.
put like a curtain
Yep.
up there during the summer months.
So I mean, it's a self-standing structure. And-
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, but
And most
that's
people
part of
don't even know the difference.
Yeah.
And I will tell you from personal experience, looking into putting in a pergola in my house, that I was told by our previous building inspector, they would have to have footings below frost line, 10 feet from the main structure, or it had to be attached to the main structure. And that, I'm sorry, it's not a structure that's supporting anything other than the timber that's used to make it. Make it. It's not supporting any snow.
It's movable.
Well, you can anchor
Mine
it down
is.
to it, so it's not.
But you can build a garage on a slab. This
I got a,
it gets me as far as the front, post,
Yeah, right.
whatever, frost line. You can build a garage on a slab with a thickened footing. And
that's all it fits is a
You
grill.
can build a house on a slab.
Little shelter.
So we'll have to go back and look at it, because I do think that it's in the
I think a
natural.
gazebo, I've got a gazebo.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, no, wait.
They have a
No,
board
We
meeting
just,
in it.
yeah,
No, I do
literally
agree that we
fit
should,
the-
it
the
should be
grill
anchored.
under it, and that's
that
as wide as
slab,
it is.
We can detail it out a little more.
Yeah.
I can say that's not.
Yeah. Okay, good. Anything else?
Thing on the zoning, I know I talked to Ron a little bit about a couple other questions he had.
Anybody else out there? Anything just kind of for the entertainment?
What's going on with Myers Paint Store? I saw them bringing drywall in the other day.
I don't know.
Myers Paint Store on
Merck's Cheese
83.
Store, yeah.
The old Merck's?
The old Merck's.
Salem Mini Mart.
no,
Across the street. from
Yeah.
used to be a stop eating.
No, that used to be
Yeah,
Merck's.
it was stop heating.
Yeah, he was.
Merck's Cheese.
I think Jim was saying the fire inspector is gonna be some sort of real estate office.
Oh, no, not another one.
Any other questions?
Doug, did you have something you want to bring up in the parks?
Just, if you're gonna do golf carts, I'm not saying one way or the other, Dan, either way, but if you are, can you please, on the application or something, have them initial that they understand
They're not allowed in the park.
It says that in the ordinance.
Does it?
It does say that. It's not allowed in private property,
It was
parks,
never
wild.
an ordinance to allow golf carts in parks. So that was obviously.
Yeah, it's in the ordinance, yes.
It's in
Okay,
there.
this is gonna sound really silly, but, I guess with this whole thing with the golf carts, are we also going to allow four-wheelers? Because I know my parents have a four-wheeler. It
Mhm.
has seatbelts, it's got all the safety features and things, it's got.
Well, we haven't graduated out of golf carts yet.
We got,
Right, but what I'm saying to you is, that vehicle is more safe than a golf cart. Now, I'm not proposing that that be allowed to zoom around either, and I don't have them, so I really don't care. But what I'm saying is with all the discussion about a golf cart, there's other vehicles, like that's what's coming next.
Oh, it's been here and it hit a dead end and they're trying to open that road up now.
It has seatbelts, it has lights, it has,
Okay.
it has all those features, so.
It's on our radar, let us just say that.
We're trying to crawl before we walk. We're just trying to.
Because we started out with that about 3 or 4, I don't even know,
2 minutes.
years ago. Whoa, probably was only yesterday, I don't know. But yes,
Well, I work too hard for my money and I can't afford that shit, so, you know, whatever.
all right, with that, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Ron gave me the signal and then Mike is second. All in favor?